just to recap this again, we need to, if it's a complex project where we can't nail down within a few hours, we need detailed scope. That scope, you should be prepared to pay, I would say, anywhere from $2,500 to, based on the complexity, to $50,000 for an advanced scope. What that advanced scope is 10, 20, 30, 40, sometimes 100 pages of every single detail that you can give to a technical team or a team of developers, and they take it and they can move forward from there. It has documentation, it has everything else. But for technical side of things, for people to understand, whenever you're talking about a platform, you have the database structure, the core system that you're going to use. What kind of a framework are you going to use? Are you going to use Laravel or Ignite from PHP? Are you going to use ASP? Are you going to use Python? So, and that all changes based on the type of project you're looking for. So from a technical standpoint, all of that needs to be planned out. So let's say we go through the scope. Before we go to the next level, I want to give an expectation of the cost to people. So obviously not everybody can afford, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 for a scope. So I want to say, if your operation or if your business operation is doing more than $1 million, it is okay. It should be okay for you to pay $5,000, $10,000 for a scope out project, because you can't spend $30,000, $40,000 on a platform and integration. It makes your process a lot more efficient. It allows you to grow and scale. And in today's world, especially if you're doing any kind of e-commerce or online lead generation, you need to be scalable. And the only way that's going to happen is through technology. So to continue, once we have a scope and once we nail down the scope, we say the scope is ready. The scope obviously needs to also have wireframes, workflow, diagram, maybe mock-ups. Yeah. So it's not just 100 pages or 50 pages or 20 pages of documentation. It also needs to have the workflow of what happens. User comes, signs up, go to this page, this happens, this integration happens, information is sent there. Once we have the scope, what happens?
So after we have the scope, we will provide a timeline on the cost of the project.
Okay.
And then after that,
So with the scope, we say, okay, here is the scope, and here is what it's going to cost in terms of resources to build this project, correct?
Yeah.
And then we have another call with the client, or maybe we see them one-on-one, face-to-face, and we say, here is what needs to be done. It's a 6-month project, for example. It's going to cost $100,000. And then we obviously, once that's approved, we assign a team to it. But what are the clients or the prospects' options once they get the scope?
One, they can execute it with us.
Okay.
They can say, okay,
they can do it with us.
Or they already have a scope out that would solve the problem. They can go to a different company if they want to.
So here is what I say always: if you have a project that's over, I would say $75,000, $80,000, open up for a bid. Yeah. Say, here is the scope, and you got to open it up for a bid. But before you share the scope, sign an NDA with them, because remember, that scope is a detailed document you just spent $5,000 to $50,000 for, and you don't want to just give it to anybody, because they can't take the scope and they can execute it themselves. You already did the hard part. Yeah. Scope is really a difficult phase that a lot of people don't go through. A lot of people just wing it, and that's why, instead of costing $50,000, the project might cost you $100,000, and after 18 months, you don't have anything to show for it. And we've been there, we've done that. This is how we learn how to do this. So it's a very, very important part. You can do it with somebody else, or you can do it with the company that did the scope, or you can open it up for a bid. One thing, do not post it on Upwork. Again, Upwork is for stuff that's, a few $1,000s here and there. Developers are doing work. If you want good, complex solutions, you have to do this with an experienced company.